Okay, so I know you may frantically be searching through YouTube. Trust me, I get it. But just give me a couple of minutes. It's a little bit wordy, but I will try to get to the point ASAPly. All right, so first I want to set the stage for this particular situation. Small block Ford head. It's a GT40. I pulled it out of a 96 Ford Explorer. These Fords, and I'm sure it's the same with Mopar and Chevrolet, they're real bad about breaking the bolts close to the coolant ports. Okay, this one was no exception. I broke this one off. Whenever I got it home and I looked at the stud, or the broken bolt rather, there was carbon buildup coming out through this hole, like it was just growing up with crud and carbon. So the very first step is to take a pick or maybe like a piece of sheet metal. This is like that cheap exhaust hanger you get from the parts store. And you're just going to try to pick out as much crud as you can. And what I try to tell myself is anytime it's not coming out clean and you got crud on it, you know you're getting that much closer. The next step will be using some kind of a torch. I don't believe a heat gun will do it, but whenever I was using the torch, I would try to get the flame between the bolt and the cylinder head. And I was just trying to get all that crud to kind of flake off. And then again, I'd use the pick and get whatever I could, hoping that it kind of flake and scale as it got heated up. And y'all already know this, but whenever you heat things, they'll expand. So I was hoping that the expansion would also help move some of the crud that was acting like, that crud acts like a super Loctite. So you're just trying to move that around as much as possible. All right, now that you've got it hot, you want to shock it with some penetrating oil. I'm not loyal to any brand. I don't honestly know which one works the best. I would just pick a random one and spray it, and then you just let it sit. This is a tough part because you have to be patient. It's really nice to have some kind of a jig to hold the cylinder up a certain way. I have a valve cover that I cut to adjust the valves when it's running. I use that to hold it upside down. Then I would spray into the bolt hole right there. And then some days I would flip the head over, right side up, and I would chalk it up a certain way so I could spray the penetrating oil into this part. But just alternating between the top and the bottom will help. For this part of the demo, you got to use a little bit of your imagination. Imagine this head is right side up. What I would do is I'd fill up this part with whatever penetrating oil, and then I'd run a bolt through here and I would tighten it. I have a little clip I can inject showing how that works. So I filled the stud up with Freol, and I've used PB Blaster, everything I could. And I've got a bolt on the back side of it. Let me show you what happens when I put a little bit of tension on that bolt. There we go. Some little bubbles there, tiny bubbles. If you have really good eyesight, you could see those small bubbles coming out of I think it was the top right of that bolt. That was the first sliver of hope that I got, that I thought maybe this bolt will come out. We are nearing the end of all my tips and tricks to get out a broken stud. Whenever I was getting this one out, it was after a really good heating session. I had put the flame, like I was saying earlier, I like to put the flame between the bolt and the head. I'm just trying to get all that buildup to just kind of flake away, peel away, get brittle. That way I can put a pick on it. And at any rate, it was after a really good heating session. I poured some penetrating oil straight down this hole, and I came back, I think a few hours later, and the penetrating oil had started to make its way down. And in a few hours, the bolt was completely wet with penetrating oil. And that's whenever I knew I really had a fighting chance, more than a fighting chance, to remove the stud. Let me do some backpedaling real quickly. So whenever I was running, this bolt down into the broken bolt, I was moving that broken bolt a little bit, but I was kind of taking it from a tight spot to an even tighter spot. And let me explain that a little bit better. All right, so let's just think about how a bolt can fasten two parts together. Whenever you're tightening up on a bolt, these threads in the cylinder head are getting pulled. If I can get this thing to thread. There we go. These threads are getting pulled, well, right now they're getting pulled down. And whenever this stud broke, it broke whenever it still had a load or tension on it. So even though I was pushing down on it earlier with this bolt, it was going from a tight spot to a tighter spot. I wish I had done this earlier, but shortly after I had gotten the penetrating oil to pass all the way through, I thought of this. I think it's a great idea. I don't actually know how effective it was, but I really think it helped. So what I'm doing here is I'm tightening up on the C-clamp, and you notice this C-clamp isn't huge. This one is a 3-inch. So I wasn't going just super duper crazy on it, but I would, get it snug. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to return the broken bolt back to the neutral position. It never got loose enough to where it'd wiggle like this one. Probably doesn't show up on camera, but this wiggles back and forth. But I would go to work. Before I'd go to work, I would tighten it. I'd come home, and sometimes it would move a 32nd, maybe a 64th, but it would move a little bit. And then that brings me to the final step. All right, we are at the final step. Got to give my parents a shout out. They came over for a visit, and I was showing my dad, this problem child. And I was like, oops, dropped him. It's like, I put pliers on it, and I just can't get it to move. And that's another thing, is I was trying to be very careful not to just destroy what was left of this bolt. And my dad said, pliers aren't going to do it. Do you have any vice grips? So he put the grips on it. I mean, he tightened it to where he could barely even, get it to clamp. And sure enough, he broke it loose. I got the clip. I'll show it to you right now. All right, so we are at the conclusion. Dad was able to put some vice grips on it, and it looks like the stud's going to come out. Pa, do you want to see if we can get it? Are you just exercising it right now?
That's all, yeah, I'm just doing a demo. I would say this is so limber, you could almost take it out with your fingers. This is really something from being stuck hard enough to wring off the head of the bolt to completely free. Good process.
Thanks.
The serrations on these are meant to go like this.
Okay.
Instead of like this.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, we can get it out. We'll just take a little bite at a time.
Okay.
Oh, B switch. How did I have that thing? Here we go. Okay. Is it moving?
It is moving.
Okay. We'll just go until it pops off. Okay.
Yeah.
And it went around the edge, real careful, and actually beat the broken stud into the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And released the pressure on the threads, and when it came out, it just came out like zippity-doo-dah. Oh, man, miracle of miracles. It's only been 2 months.
Yeah.
Hey, nice.
And that is it. I do wish I had put the C-clamp on a little bit sooner. I think that was key. But the only things I could see, the only progresses I could see was the bubbles and whenever the oil finally started to make it from the top to the bottom. But the other thing, whenever we got this stud out, I don't think we showed it in the footage, the threads, if it'll focus. It won't. But the threads had just a bunch of just crud on them. So it was it'd be loose and it'd be tight, loose and then tight. But if you have patience, if time is on your side, I think you can get it out. If you have any tips or tricks, please put them in the comments. If you're going to tell me I could have welded it, I don't think I'm that good. I was afraid I was going to arc on, you know, the mating surface. This is the mating surface for the intake manifold. But please give me all your tips and tricks, share them with everyone else, and I'll see you next time. All right, I know that was not like a 30-second hack video, but I will say, I think if you have enough patience to make it through this one, you probably are gonna be okay waiting that stubborn bolt. One more thing, two more things. I had a stud extractor. I didn't have enough stud though to grab onto it. And if you do, I'm sure this would help. Another idea, I had a broken stud coming out of the engine block where the timing cover and water pump are on a small block Ford. And it kind of looked similar to this bolt here. And I used 2 pair of large channel locks, about at least 90, probably 120 degrees apart. And I was able to break it loose. So the more, we all know this, but the more real estate you have, the better your odds are. If it's broken off flush, I would still follow a lot of those tips and tricks, heating it up, you know, everything I said earlier. I won't repeat it again. And then a good machine shop, of course, could probably get that one out. But for real, that's everything. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.